class we discussed the gradient panel and the idea of gradients being a blend of two or more colors on a single object or vector. And so for practice today, we're going to start applying these gradients and we're going to rely on the gradient panel. This is one of two places you can utilize to add, edit, or manipulate gradients in Illustrator. To access our panel, just like anywhere else in this program, we always access panels through our Window tab. So let's go to Window and find Gradient. When you do so, you'll see this gradient panel pop up, and it has quite a few options that allow us to edit things. First option is this little square right up here. It basically shows you the default or the last used gradient in your document. So let's say you make a gradient of green and blue. The next shape you pick will probably save the green and blue here until you edit it. There's also the type of gradients, and we discussed that there's linear gradients, radial gradients, and freeform gradients. Depending the object you pick, you have different settings. For example, linear will give you an angle, radial will give you an angle and a ratio, and freeform will give you the option to either have points or lines of reforms. So you have quite a few settings here that will really help you out. Let's start with the first shape. Your job in this part of your activity is to apply the gradients as described below. So this one says to put a linear gradient that's dark green to light green. To do that, first you have to activate your object with your selection tool. Then you have to tell the computer which type of gradient you want. When you do that, it will probably fill it in with the last default or black and white. In order to change the color, you're going to have to go to the gradient annotator down here, the slider. And basically these little dots, yours might be a square if you have an older version of Illustrator, but they're called color stops. They allow you to add and change the color of your gradient. So if I want to change this first stop to dark green, I can simply double click on it and a dialog box will pop up with either an eyedropper tool to steal color, a swatches panel, or a regular color panel. Now when you click this first one that looks like a palette, you'll see the letter K. K stands for the color black. This will only allow you to give shades of gray because of the default. If you want to change it to color, you have to go up to the upper right hand corner, these little three lines, and hit CMYK, which is allowing you to pick color. Or you can simply stick with your swatches panel. That's totally fine. So I asked for dark green or light green, so let's find the darkest green available. Let's do the same thing by double clicking on the other side and put the lightest green. You can add gradients to a stroke, so be careful today when you're adding gradients that you don't accidentally put it on this back square, because technically I can add a gradient to a stroke as well. As you go through this, be careful to make sure you have the right type of gradient as well as the right colors. As you go through, the last one is a freeform one with at least 3 points with shades of blue. You can choose whatever shades of blue you like, but practice using the freeform. When you're done, pause and turn your camera 45 degrees.